So welcome to the Open Space Committee meeting for Wednesday, February 2nd, 2022, and it's 4:33 p.m. I'm going to call the meeting to order and ask if we have anyone here for public audience. So I don't see anyone. Everybody here is supposed to be here. So let's move on to the approval of the minutes for November 3rd, 2021. Is there any feedback, changes to the minutes? Anybody has? No. So the minutes stand. Do you guys normally vote on the minutes? We just kind of say they're good if there's no changes. So, okay, good if no changes. So let's move on. So the next item is just some updates from the open space work groups. And if somebody wants to take on the no-mow zone signage discussion.
Sure. On the signs, I could just tell you that I had came to the work group last time. We had talked about trying to get some education out there for our residents as to why we don't mow certain areas now. Areas like the Triangle, Laurel, the lot at the corner of Great Pond and Laurel Lane, the Case Circle, and there's a couple other spots here and there. But every fall we tend to get those questions, why is the town not doing this? It's 3 feet high or 4 feet high. And there's been a lot of discussion coming from this started around the Parks and Open Space Master Plan a few years ago about, how we're going to care for our meadows. So what I did, Tom, are you still there? Tom F?
Yep.
Can you allow me to share my screen for one moment?
Yep.
And Tom, this will help my department not fine you for tall grass.
Thank you. Yeah, I appreciate that. So you should see, can you see on your screen right now the no mow zone on your sign? So basically what we'd like to do is produce, a few dozen of these to put around some of those places where we have changed our mowing practices to once a year or more, just to let people know what's behind that reasoning. And obviously we would probably release this on social media as well to get the word out. But we think it would be helpful, cut off some questions and maybe makes people think a little bit more about what they're doing on their own property as well. So if there's additional feedback to this, we'll go ahead and begin getting these produced so we can put some of them out in the spring.
So Tom, when it says no mow, does that mean just reduced mowing? I mean, you're still going to mow some of the areas.
No mow. Yeah, I think that's, on the agenda as well today. We're going to talk about what kind of schedule we're looking for, but it's those areas that are only going to get mowed at best once a year.
Or once every other year.
Right. At best once a year or less. So
Tom, are they gonna go on all that? Like there's an area near me. Is there gonna be one there?
I don't know. I know whereabout. I think I know where you live, but which lot are you talking about?
I'm just curious what it would like on the corner of Ferry Lane and Terry's Plain. I think there's like a birds thing there. So but would you put it at all the places so people would?
So definitely the town owned open spaces. I'm not sure exactly about the plot you're talking about. If it's,
okay,
that's not one that was on the top of my list. But like I said, there's Case Circle, which is surrounded by by a lot of homes. The Triangle is probably the most visible one.
Oh, right.
I imagine that some of these, on the new the Firetown side, the Firetown portion of the Meadowwood property, and if we don't farm that out this year. Where those two where we were last week, Wendy, with those two barns, that area behind there would be a no mow zone. Again, the corner of Laurel Lane and Great Pond is a pretty visible lot right there. Mm-hmm. Those are the big ones. Maybe behind there's I think a portion of area behind Oracle Field and Hedgeshaw Meadow Pond Park. We have a connecting path there that it would probably be wise to put it there as well. We typically just don't mow anything but a path between those two locations, but areas of similar like that we care for in that manner. I think at Ethel Walker Woods, that property, we have the meadow over there that I think we maintain. That would be on a similar schedule as well, I believe. Is that the one? I think Susan might know more about that. We've talked about that one before. I think it's the one on the end of Longview Drive.
Okay.
If that's the right one. So, but those, Wendy, those are the areas that
Okay.
we're thinking of.
Yep.
And Tom, are these going to be your standard like lawn signs with the metal frame?
No, these would be printed on something a little bit more sturdy than that. It's we don't want them blowing around. This will be fixed to a metal, probably a metal or wood post, and I believe we talked about 12 by 18, 12 by 16 in that range, large enough to see, and probably no more than 2 along any roadway. Like the triangle may have 1 on every on the 3 sides, 1 or 2 on every side.
Yeah, when you've got if you could sketch something up, I just want to make sure Laura knows what she's looking at, just so when they show up, she doesn't freak out and not be in the loop, so that we're all on the same page. And she and I will talk about it and make sure that she's aware of it.
Yeah, definitely not the lawn corrugated signs, and they wouldn't be big. They wouldn't be. Those are typically 16 by 24, 18 by 24. It wouldn't be that big. Okay, smaller than that.
No, it sounds good. I mean, we've allowed some signs for Trust for Public, or not, Jesus, the Simsbury Land Trust. I always do that at some of their locations, especially for temporary parking or temporary access and stuff. So
sure,
that'll be fine.
Okay.
And then this information will be posted. I'm sorry, will be posted on the website.
Yeah, I would like to, once we know for sure that when I have the final draft of this, we were going to post it on social media just as we get a little closer to the spring and let people know and kind of start. We've talked about some other initiatives to kind of share with the public regarding invasives and illegal dumping and things like that. So we kind of go along with that type of information.
Okay, that sounds good.
Good, thank you.
Oh, go ahead.
Sorry, I had a question. So I know you have a lot of great information on there, but it's really probably going to be hard to read that unless you're right near the sign, like someone driving by. So I'm wondering, and is an issue that isn't on the agenda today, but I think is something we should think about and have been kind of moving towards, is making the website sort of a repository of information for best practice for, all kinds of stuff. I'm wondering if 2 things, and I'm open-minded about either of them or neither of them. We could say, if I looked at that list of things, it's really all about kind of nature and climate. We could simplify this and just saying, by allowing the grass and natural vegetation to grow, we are supporting nature and climate, and then could have like a QR code that could go to the Town of Simsbury open space website and would lead people to that repository with more information that then they could look at their own leisure. So it could then have the web address and then a QR code. And we could start doing that on different signs in town and basically, use our signage as a mechanism to pull people into these educational materials. So I don't know if it's too late for that, for this set of signs, and the website is like a topic not on the agenda today, but it might be something to think about.
I think that's a great idea.
I do too.
So one thing, I guess
in the game, because there's a lot of great information on the sign, and I don't.
Yeah, and just to be clear, I don't imagine this as a drive-by sign. It's kind of one of those. We're putting it where the parking areas are along some of those areas, like the triangle where people park to watch the sunset. There's that one on the corner of Firetown Road and Holcomb Street. There are some areas where it's kind of those areas where you got your car. There's a sign. The no-mow zone might attract people to come over and look at the sign. When we're going to put some of these around the golf course where Brian Johnson's kind of going to a more natural habitat on some of those areas, you'll be right there. You can see it, but never big. The sign would have to be triple the size of this to be able to see it from the roadway. That's not what our intent was with that.
Yeah, that's why I thought if it was just bigger, like nature and climate or whatever, would give people a clue. And I like the fact it says no mow zone in like big letters. So hopefully at least that would be, visible, because it's something not just for people parked, it's for people driving by. Those are probably some of the people that are calling. So anyway, maybe we can at least put the I guess the website, the Open Space Commission website doesn't have an easy URL to put on the sign, and that would just be more stuff.
No, that would be tight, but the QR, we could replace the town logo there with the QR code if that's something everybody felt strongly about, and I can make the town logo big or less big somewhere else. But that corner would probably be where it would fit best if we were to do something like that.
That's not a bad idea, but one of my comments was, I think the town logo should be fairly prominent, so people know that it's the town putting this up there. I was going to say to make that bigger. So I do like your picture. I do like it though. Yeah, I think that might be good there.
Yeah.
Well, maybe, I mean, I don't think,
Go on.
sorry. Well, maybe, I mean, that aspect ratio, whatever, is perfect for a QR code. Maybe we should just, their town of Simsbury, because maybe everyone isn't going to even recognize that as a town logo. It's just adding more things that might be hard for people to read.
I was just going to say that, the Simsbury Land Trust, people don't know which is the Simsbury Land Trust property and which is the town property. So it'd be nice to be able to identify it. Wendy, I think the property you were talking about might be up under land trust. So
Okay.
So yeah, it would be good to. I think it'd be good to identify which is the town property.
I just want to introduce myself. I'm sorry, I had trouble getting on and I got the link. I had last month's link. So I'm Erin Levitt Smith. I'm the new chair of planning. So I'll be on the open space committee from here on out. So I'm really happy to be here today. What I would suggest is, why don't you take out why is the grass taller here? Just call it a no mow zone, put the town logo on, and then give the reasons why. I mean, that it makes it less wordy too. So, you could put no mow zone or put the town logo on top and then do or whatever, no mow zone town logo. And then this area, you could put, allowing, I'm just saying you could reduce the wordage.
So Tom, you probably put a lot of time into this. I'm just kidding. I don't know if you did or not. Because it kind of really
You're stifling my creativity. That's what you guys are doing.
I think it pops, is what I was going to say. So, I would say if we could find a place for a QR code to give Susan and Marjorie a link to wealth of information, and then we could have the Simsbury logo. But isn't there a open space designation that we have on our open space properties? Do we have something that? No, we don't. Okay,
I think so.
I'm on the right committee, right? Okay, so then just the logo somewhere and potentially the QR code as a small revision. But I think it looks pretty good the way it is, the colors and everything. How's that sound?
But in order to get everything in there, Wendy, if you want your logo and we want the QR code, I think you're going to have to. I think it's going to be too busy if you don't reduce something else.
Or he could do it on each side, one QR code on one side, and and just move the text over and make that bigger or something. I used to be a graphic designer, Tom. So.
Oh, there you go.
You feel me. Thank you.
Okay, so I think that's good.
All right. Well, I'll work on it.
Okay, but I think it looks good. I'm going to give you that. So I'm going to move on if everybody's okay with that. You guys ready to move on? And discuss the ARPA funding for open space. I saw, Susan, you had sent some ideas if you wanted to open up that conversation.
Sure. And I looked in my files. I had some scribbly slides that I made before, but just to kind of lay out my position on this is I just feel like, open space is really responsible for the stewardship of our land, which is basically our lifeline. And we need to kind of do what we can to make sure that we have those kind of things, in the best shape possible for the long term. And that's a really big responsibility. And I take that very seriously. And that's why I'm on the Open Space Commission. And this ARPA funding is a one-time opportunity to infuse money that can really help shore up these critical things. And I consider, water and, a lifeline of nature and things that support our community health is absolutely essential. And there are some one-time costs that have been sort of circling around that haven't been addressed for a while. I could show a slide that might be a little messy, or I can just kind of go over those things. I mean, I did go to that public hearing, Wendy, and I was very rushed and late, and I didn't do a good job. But some of the things that were on were really the impetus for the open space master plan was getting a better handle on our ecology, so we know what we have and we don't run over something by accident. And that's something that's really important. Another thing that we have are some kind of what I would call deferred maintenance on some of our areas that had a lot of use during the pandemic, or need a intermittent maintenance that's pretty serious. So some of our trails have some serious erosion problems that are going to get worse. And there's some problems that have been going on. I'm familiar with the Ethel Walker Woods and a few other trails. And what's happening is the solutions to the erosion problems are making problems worse. So we have progressive problems that are getting worse, and I'm concerned about them not being addressed. And some of those things would have to be done kind of in partnership with the school, because what's been causing the problems is the school driving trucks all the time. And so there's been no kind of intensive effort to address that problem, because the trucks are causing a problem, then they dump gravel, then they drive more trucks. So it's just like a circular problem. And it's nobody's fault. It's just, everyone's just trying to Band-Aid the problem. Town Forest Pond used to be a really popular swimming area where a lot of people learned to swim, and there were camps and all this kind of stuff. And there was a bypass installed a bunch of years ago. But what happened during that process is the pond wasn't dredged, but a lot more sand was added. And so it used to be full of wildlife, and everyone used to swim, and neither one of those things are true anymore. So, these are kind of assets that need to be kind of resuscitated, that are the kind of pool areas, outdoor areas that people really want and will really serve the town long term. So that's just a couple of examples of open space. And I think other people, I have a little list. Other people have others. The invasive thing, I think, is on our list as a separate item. So I won't go into that, but that's another kind of progressive problem that if you have a way to address hotspots, that really, you need kind of like addressing hotspots so you don't open up new battlefronts on the war, and then you also need to deal with your battlefronts. And then the other thing that I didn't bring up in the public hearing, I'm just going to vomit everything out. And then if people have questions, I'm happy to answer them, is, how can we support our local farms, which I also consider part of our long-term lifeline. And our farmers are getting older. The Grange has started a program the past couple of years to set up apprentices with our local farmers. And we had matching grants for that. And it's a chance for a person of any age. We actually had a teacher from Hartford. We had a college student. We had a high school student to work one-on-one with a farmer and learn from them. And, it's a small program, but one of those younger people might end up helping the farmer as they get older to be their manager. Maybe they might take over the farm. I mean, we don't really have a good, farmers getting older is a really big issue. And so their knowledge is, something that you can't learn from a book, really. So that's another thing. And are there ways that we can support our local farms by, partnering them with local schools, or having farmers markets, or, some kind of programs? And I don't know if it might be possible with the ARPA money to maybe hire someone to facilitate getting that rolling. It might not have to be a long-term thing, but it would need to be someone who is kind of focused on it, could take the time to talk to the farmers and figure this out. So anyway, my points about ARPA funding with open space are really about our, long-term community lifelines. And I really think that we need to shore those up before we talk about new initiatives and building stuff and all these other kinds of things. So that's my point.
Any weigh in on that? I was just going to give you a couple, my dog's barking downstairs. A couple things from the ARPA work group, and Maria's involved with us on that. But we recently found out that they came out with the final rule in January, and it's kind of loosened up a lot of different ways we can use the funding, whereas before it was pretty limited on how we could use it. So that's just new news, right? And now we have all these ideas from different groups, from different master plans, things like that. So we're trying to trying to get together a big list of items, where they originated from. So we know if it comes from open space, if it came from capital plan, and then work from there to prioritize, look at the costs, with Maria's and Melissa and Amy's help, and then move forward from there. So you did speak at the hearing. The other thing that I've been telling people too is we close the public hearing, but you can also, send an email like through public audience to the Board of Selectmen, so we all have the same information going forward. But there's a lot of opportunities, as you know, for this money, and it's going to be a matter of, there's just a lot to juggle with the money. That's all I can say. It's difficult. And if anybody wants to weigh in, if Maria has any comments on that too. No.
Hi, it's Kelly Kearney.
Hi.
Just a quick question to make sure I'm up to speed on this, on the ARPA. And sorry, I'm not. Is it essentially a big pot of money that's going to be arriving? I heard you talking about some of the strings that may or may not be attached, but is that pot of money going to be available? And do we know when and how much?
Yeah, we do. So we've already got about $3.5 million. I believe Amy said we're getting the next set of money in May, and the town is getting about $7.5 million that we have to allocate by 2024 and use it by 2026. So it's supposed to be for COVID relief, but there's other factors in there and how you can use it with for government, certain government services, certain capital. You just don't want to use it for something that's going to have an ongoing operating cost is kind of the big no-no there.
Okay, thanks.
Mm-hmm.
I have a question. It seems that I believe you can use the ARPA money for open space acquisition, and I don't know if we've totally paid for Meadowwood yet, but could we use some of that money to pay off our bill for Meadowwood? That ship might have sailed, but I think it's a legit use of the money.
Don't know if Marie's going to weigh in, but I don't think you can use it for anything that you've done already. I think it's looking forward. That's my first impression on that.
Well, I know we haven't done anything about the trails that are going to go through Meadowwood, and development of some of those recreational aspects of Meadowwood. So perhaps it could be used for that's one of the things that was planned. It's a going forward project.
Mm-hmm. It's a good idea if it's allowable. Yeah, it'd be good to use it for things that we're going to end up having to pay for, and it would potentially, we could get something without, hitting up the taxpayers and advance some of our causes, right? So, okay. Okay, so next item is the Open Space Rangers program. Who's behind that one?
Susan, are you going to do that?
Well, me and Marjorie are kind of partners in crime on the Rangers program because she's the one who told me about it, and it was kind of circling for a while. And then, via the open space work group, I agreed to reach out to the Rangers program. And the person I spoke to is Dan Levine in Ridgefield. And they have a very elaborate, very successful Rangers program. And he sent me a whole bunch of documents. They have signage, they have a yearly party, they have kind of a whole training program and all of this kind of stuff. And I haven't shared it with anyone except for open space, and I guess everyone in the public, since all of our stuff is public, but I have talked to the Scouts group that meets at First Church, Troop 76, about possibly taking on Belden Forest. So the kind of goal would be for our properties that are kind of our nature preserve kind of properties, we would have a family or a set of people as a group that would kind of keep an eye on things. And I think we have some groups that are ready to do that. It's just a matter of how formally we wanted to do it, and do we want to kind of just adapt the materials that we received from Ridgefield, since they've already done a lot of work on that. So that's sort of the summary. Marjorie, does that describe it?
Yeah, I don't think we need to reinvent the wheel. And it's very similar to the program that we have at the Simsbury Land Trust for stewards. We have volunteers to maintain our trails. So I know a lot of people get very attached to the trails and to the properties that they steward. So it would be lovely to get more people involved in doing that on the town land in an official, sort of semi-official capacity.
Is this something that Tom Taberski should weigh in on, or have any thoughts on this, Tom?
Yeah, I'm supportive of the idea. There's some work that has to be done to get it going. That's the only makes me a little apprehensive. But I think if there's the right people involved, we could take some of the load off. We all know there's been an issue with us getting to trail maintenance, to illegal dumping, monitoring, things like that. This program would certainly help with that. And invasives as well, the right amount of, the right training, it could be extremely helpful to us. It's a matter of, I think I've made it clear, Orlando and I and some others in our department are pretty, our time is tight as it is. And not that this isn't a worthwhile endeavor at all. It's just a matter of how much this is going to fall on us to get it going and, and keep it going. That's just my 2 cents, but I believe in the program. I think it would be a great thing for Simsbury.
Sure. Susan?
Yeah, so I was going to mention that I don't know if we're hiring any staff, is kind of a way to organize or look for grants or deal with any logistics related to the ARPA program. But I wonder if kind of getting this program, I think once this program is rolling, it's not going to be that big of a lift. And I wonder if maybe if we do hire staff related to that, this could be something. Or I wonder, and there was a discussion of this a number of years ago about doing kind of a shared stewardship with the land trust. Maybe we could subcontract, I'm just throwing this out there. I haven't said anything to Marjorie about it, but is there a way that we could just kind of subcontract with Farmington River Watershed or the land trust to kind of get a program like this going? And then we don't have to, we can kind of outsource getting it rolling, and then it would be something that we can have going forward. So it's not urgent. I'm just trying to think of a easy path.
Maybe we can talk to Ridgefield to see how they got theirs, what they did to start it. What steps they went through. If they can.
And he did volunteer to come to a meeting. So if we want to invite him for a few minutes at the next meeting, that might be a great way. Then people have a chance to look at the documents a little more carefully in the meantime, and he could have a little cameo at the meeting.
Yeah.
Sure.
I think they run theirs out of the Conservation Commission, but I don't think they have a conservation. I don't think they're a combined conservation in the ones, but I'm not sure. I have to check that out because I know Simsbury is.
I had a question. So do you get assigned your own open space that is your ownership of?
It's like Adopt a Mile. I mean, you have your park or acreage that you look after, and you walk the trail, every couple of weeks, and look for hazards or things to report and encroachment and things like that. I mean, I think Susan and Marjorie have done a pretty good job of explaining what it is. You know, I've been fortunate to hear this a number of times, so I'm pretty familiar with what it is. And again, it'd be a great program. We own a lot of open space in town. I mean, that's not a hidden fact to anybody who's on the call right now. And we have to, at some point, we have to have some kind of oversight of it. And, you know, if we want people to be able to use those existing trails, or we want to blaze new trails, it's just, you know, we got to pick up that slack somewhere along the line. So, and, you know, many hands make light work. And this certainly would be the case here.
So if we reach out to Richfield and find out how they started, we can also have this discussion in the work group and see if we can't, you know, pick a date to have a preliminary meeting, put out a call for volunteers.
Sure.
Okay, and the last item for a work group update is on the discussion on invasive plant removal practices.
Well, the problem's not going to get better the longer we wait. So I know we've had some discussions about, I've had discussions with Orlando about, you know, looking at things over at Simsbury Farms. It's again, one of those things that there's just so much out there, and how are we going to do it? So we need to come up with some sort of guidelines or strategies for the town. And this might be something we'll work on in the work group. But also it sort of should be coupled with a town policy that while we're removing invasive plants, we should also be thinking about what we plant going forward so they don't become problems in the future. And they should be, you know, I think we should have a town policy that we plant primarily natives. There's a lovely website that says plant 2/3 for the birds, you know, 2/3 natives, so that, you know, if the natives escape into the wild, it's not a problem. But when some of our ornamentals escape into the wild, it becomes a huge problem. That's what, you know, an awful lot of the invasives are. So, you know, I think we have to come up with a plan to see how we can, where we're going to start, because it is a huge problem. And then I don't think the town can do it alone without getting the public involved. And I know in a discussion I had with Orlando and Brian Johnson, I think, and Tom, thinking of having an invasive removal day. We have to figure out, you know, if you get them before they set seeds, it's not such a problem, the disposal of them, but you know, we have to figure out which invasive to tackle first, and see if we can get the public involved in removing them, perhaps from their own properties.
Yeah, we talked a lot about education. I think that's what we, you know, identifying 1 or 2 species is like the goal to get, you know, to try to eliminate, you know, remove as much as possible in 22, and then we moved on to another set next year. But people start to see these things over and over through your social media, through the town social media channels, through the rec departments and everybody else, the land trust, all these people. The more you get it out there and people know what they're looking for, so you could tell me what a burning bush is, but if I don't know what a burning bush is, it could be next to me and I wouldn't, you know, right. You know, so it's not, you're not helping anybody, but, you know, through pictures and education and things, you know, eyeballs on those things, I think it could work. I think it's a good idea. And I think what Marjorie is saying to kind of target certain things, start small and then let it grow from there. I think that's the way to go than throwing a list of 15 species that are all over town. I think that's just going to get lost, and you're really probably not going to do much. And we, at the same time, educate people about, again, people who abut open spaces or other forests, not to dump, you know, as they remove these things, not to dump them out in the woods. It doesn't, you're not doing anybody any good at that point. So it's the education about what it is, how to remove it, where, you know, what to do with it once you take it out of the ground or cut it out or whatever it is.
And again,
there's a lot to it than just showing somebody a picture of something.
And it also goes to that, you know, that education again gets back to our website. I mean, there are a lot of good websites about invasives, but it'd be nice to have something tailored to Simsbury. So, you know, we really need to get that the town website functioning better, I think, for information to the public on some of these conservation issues. I don't know if that might be something, you know, getting someone to help with the website, set it up, some of that ARPA funding. But right now the website's pretty limited on that. So, I don't know what reason.
Yeah, related to that, I've been thinking about this invasive issue, and we were originally going to start at Simsbury Farms as a showcase piece, which I think is a great idea. But there's even a like super small project like the library. I've noticed some of the shrubs in front of the library are getting basically covered and killed, I believe, by bittersweet. I haven't been there for a while, but I was thinking bittersweet is the kind of invasive that you're not going to get poison ivy. You're not going to rip it up and disturb the ground and let something else move in. It's something you can cut, and it's pretty easy to identify. And maybe the front lawn of the library is like unbelievably visible, and those beautiful shrubs are getting killed by invasive weeds. So that's I don't know. I thought if we wanted to start small, it always starts with like a little step, like rock climbing. That would be a really manageable project with a few volunteers. And maybe there's other stuff nearby. There's actually a lot of stuff behind the library or whatever. And then in terms of the website, even if we don't get someone hired or whatever, there are just some documents. I could make a list of documents that I think should come down and things that could go up. And maybe we can can we send a list like that? And who would we send it to? Like our new farm policy, our natural area stewardship, there could be a link to this no mow sign. So if people drove by and didn't see it or whatever, they could look at it again, and have, just start putting information, and then we can start putting links to those conservation websites that you're talking about, Marjorie, that have
and there is a since we're designated as a pollinator friendly town, there is the pollinator pathway website that should be getting more things posted on it, so we can do that.
Yeah, this might be, I'm thinking, a good agenda item for the work group to think about, maybe what documents you might suggest. I think Tom Tyberski has a list going of some items that would be good for it. One of the challenges we have right now is capacity for our website work because we don't have a webmaster.
Yeah.
So right now it's all what we call decentralized content management. And again, I know Tom's staff is pretty, tapped out at the moment in terms of capacity. And my intern, unfortunately, does have quite a few projects in the queue, including a website for another department. So another possibility might be, and again, we can talk through this perhaps with the work group, is there maybe a volunteer that would be willing to do some of that, like updating, designing, and we have the ability to sort of do like a non-live mode where people can sort of do the work, and then ultimately it would get reviewed and say approved by Tom Tyberski, for example, and Tom Hazel, like before it actually goes live, or IT before it actually goes live. So we might be able to think creatively in terms of how we could make that work. But again, this might be a really good topic for the next work group.
You know what, Sue, I'm wondering, would this be a potential Eagle project? Usually you build something, but it's building a web page. I wonder if, Troop 76, if anybody's looking for an Eagle project where they'd have to work with someone in the town, but that would be their Eagle project to get things up and running. It might be worth asking. I don't know.
Well, I think we could put town web work and as an Eagle project, but in terms of just swapping out some documents, the time an Eagle project is just way too long for that.
Well, that's true. So
we should just, I think it could be an ongoing item. Yeah. But, I have 2 students now who are really interested in going into planning and public policy. And Trinity has a new master's in planning program. And there's a real interest in trying to, really increase that aspect of our liberal arts program. I'm sure I have an urban studies major working with me right now in the Arboretum at Trinity. And this is not a big deal. I mean, what I'm talking about is not a big deal. We could easily have him do that kind of fake, whatever you said, fake thing that to then have someone else put up on the site. So he doesn't even need access to the site. He could just kind of assemble the materials and we could put them up there or do whatever to be helpful. So I can confirm more if you think that would be useful.
Susan, is the page that you guys have, is it just the open space committee with all the stuff on the side?
what we're using
Yeah.
right now.
Yeah, and some of that stuff is outdated, and we have
Yeah,
some
it's
new
old.
stuff. Yeah, we have some new stuff that we've done that should be highlighted on there, and we have some stuff kind of coming down the pike. So we want to, we want to update it and have links for people that would be helpful.
Yeah, we actually, on our goal setting, it came up about, but again, it comes down to resources, improving access and making things more clickable and easier to find information. And there's a lot out here. Okay. So, and anybody have anything else before we adjourn?
I just had a question. Someone alerted me that people are driving ATVs on Meadowwood property. Does the town have a policy on?
Yeah, there's no motorized vehicles on town property without permission. I haven't seen that yet. I think Aquarian may have. I drove in on Monday and it looked like Aquarian may have plowed the path back up to the water tower, which they need access to periodically, because someone plowed. I talked to Orlando and we figured that must mean who it is. I didn't observe any ATV tracks in my travels back and forth, unless they're much further off the roadway than I would easily see.
Yeah, there was some discussion, and I can get you details, but I heard that there was some discussion online with people and saying, well, it's town property, so we get to do it.
No, it's actually
no.
It's a huge liability issue, and we did post sign. We had issues with this at the Triangle last spring. Yeah, and we did put some signs out, as you recall, and shortly after the fact, those signs were stolen, or a bear walked off of them, one or the other. Yeah. But they, we try to reiterate the fact that you're not allowed to use motorized vehicles on town property.
Yeah. Good. And I will be, and at the end of the meeting, I'll send you a letter that I received from Doug Beach, who's a birder, and he was just out at the Meadowwood Triangle birding, and he just something to let you know about the number of birds that he saw out there. So it's a great resource.
Yeah. He just so you know, he reached out to me last year. Somebody else I know actually from West Hartford in their recreation department is connected to him through the Audubon Society, and they're going to they're sending some material out for us to look at. So.
Yeah, I know the Hartford Audubon's very interested in that.
Yes, they are.
I noticed in the minutes at the last open space, I believe it was, forgive me, I don't remember, but it had something to do with the PA 40 around the assessors, and
that's a project that's in a little bit of a limbo, waiting for some POCD updates. It has to do with the PA 490 state program for assessment and allowing open space to be one of the assessment criteria for you can do a PA 490 farm assessment to lower your taxes. It's a program for a PA 490 open space assessment.
No, right, but we don't. That the POCD is an illegal document, so
Bob D had said that it is a guidance document. It should be there first, and then it should be handled by. I believe I forgot where it went from there. It was such a little while ago. Either planning or the board of selectmen. I can't remember, or zoning or something. We have to get that through. Actually, the assessor is the next action after the POCD.
Not the other way around. Not the assessment and the POCD.
Yeah, that's how Bob assessed it from his legal opinion. I've read the statute. I kind of pointed out to him. I thought it was the other way, but he seems to think that it's got to go to the POCD first. And the POCD updates are in the queue. We're just waiting for a new town planner in order to move that forward.
So can I make a suggestion then? I don't want to do that without the assessor. So I think it should be jointly.
She's driving the train on it. She's the one who reached out to us to do it.
Right. So if he wants us to do it and do the POCD, but I think if we have a discussion, she should come to our meeting and we should do it.
Yeah. We're just not there yet. I mean,
Yeah,
I don't
okay.
want, yeah.
No, that's helpful to know because as you know, Tom, we haven't met since I've become chair. Because
Yeah. And the planning commission has to make a list of what they do want to tackle in that POCD. There was a running list prior to Mike's exit. So we want to just make sure that we're looking at what we want to do and making the most of our time on that.
I think that should be, priority, and then looking at language and, some other things. So, yep. All right. Thank you for that update. I just wanted to keep that on the radar.
Okay, and with that, I'm looking for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
And second. All those in favor?
Second.
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, all right.